Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Gebo the Shaman, and today we will be discussing the sign of Virgo in the third house. So, what does it mean when we have Virgo in the third house in our chart? Well, we will definitely talk about that today, and yeah, just stick around because before we get into that, I'd like to let you guys know that I have a huge sale going on for astrology, so you can get astrology readings with me at vincent.thunderwizard.com. You can go to there, vincent.thunderwizard.com, and book an astrology reading for 30% off. It's a really good deal. It's a really good deal. So, then we'll talk about Patreon. So on my Patreon, we have my Qigong courses, my yoga courses, Qigong and yoga like combined, and then we have my counseling, spiritual counseling, coaching, mentoring, support groups, all that good stuff. And so we have that available at patreon.com/GeboTheShaman. And yeah, so let's get into Virgo in the third house. So, in order to understand what this placement means, we need to understand what Virgo means and what the third house means. So Virgo is basically the sign of I like to think of it as like the sign of like what could be like nurses or healthcare professionals or things like that. It's also related to the intellect and really critical thinking and being critical, being very critical and harsh and analytical. So that's another aspect to it. And then the third house means basically, the third house is the house of communication. The third house is traditionally ruled by Gemini, and so anytime we have Virgo in the third house, or anytime we're looking at the third house, we're always considering communication, and it's like basically a lot to do with kind of like short-term travel, short distance travel, things like that. And so when we have Virgo in the third house, we are basically we could be like very like assertive in our communication. We could be very critical in our communication. We could be very assertive and critical and very analytical in our communication. We could there's a propensity for people to overthink about their communications with others. You talk to a friend and you say something, and then they analyze what you're thinking or analyze what you just said. They overthink things. There's a huge propensity for this placement to overthink things, and overthink communication. So for example, there could be so if you had this placement, you could be there could be a situation where you really analyze everything that people say to you. you like overanalyze it and make it mean this big old thing when that's not what they were trying to say, you know. It's the propensity to overthink and overanalyze and over criticize too. You know, criticizing someone's communication with you. Like for example, kind of like, you know, you could be very, okay, so for this example, you could be very, very detailed about your writing, like have no grammatical errors, nothing like that. And then you could like criticize someone for having, you know, misspelling words or having wrong grammar or punctuation or things like that. Yeah, it could be very, very irritating for you. So you could be very nitpicky, very perfectionist about all of your communication style. You know, about your communication style and your communication, the type of communication that you do. So you could be, for example, you could be one of those people who never takes phone calls, or who always texts, or who just, you know, you might even, if you have Mercury retrograde, you might even want to write handwritten letters to people, or things like that, where it's like, you have a certain style of like preferred communication, and when people go outside of your comfort zone, then you can you can become very analytical and critical, and you know, things like that. So let's see what else. Yeah, so another thing is, so let's say you had Gemini or Virgo in the 3rd house, and you had no planets here. So one way of getting a better idea of what's going on in this house, or the energies that could be going on here, is to look at where your Mercury is placed, because Mercury rules both Gemini Mercury rules both the 3rd house and Virgo, the sign of Virgo. So Virgo being in the 3rd house, it's in its own element, kind of thing. It's in its own element, and so I would look at where Mercury is placed. So for example, you had if you had Mercury in the 9th house, well, then you would have, or Mercury in Sagittarius, then you would have, you know, this very strict communication about spirituality, about religion, about spirituality, about higher education, about philosophy. You would have this very strict, very detailed, very analytical, very critical communication about that, about spirituality, religion, philosophy, higher education, things like that. So that can kind of give you an indication, like looking at where your Mercury is placed can give you an indication of a better idea of what's going on in this house, just as a basic kind of overview. But then again, if you wanted to look at your aspects, your conjunctions, your, you know, the things that are the planetary aspects and things that are aspecting this placement, then you could do that too. And we do that in my Vedic astrology readings. So if you would like to get a Vedic astrology reading, you can go to vincent.thunderwizard.com and get an astrology reading for 30% off. I'm offering it for a pretty good discount there. And then, of course, we have patreon.com/Gebo the Shaman, where you can find my support groups, spiritual counseling, coaching, mentoring, energy work programs, and all that good stuff. And yeah, the support groups. Support groups is something that I just recently started offering, and that is pretty powerful because people need support, emotional support and things like that. And so so I just thought I'd make that available. I have gone through some life coaching and stuff, training. I'm working on getting my associates in psychology, and so yeah, I feel like I would make a great support group spiritual counselor. So I can offer counseling in the realm of spiritual counseling, but not actually, like, I'm not a psychologist or a therapist or anything like that. I do offer counseling, though. I do offer life coaching as well as mentoring, as well as spiritual counseling. So you can check that out. Okay, guys, so patreon.com/Gebo the Shaman over here, and vincent.thunderwizard.com, and we will talk to you later. So have a good day. Peace.